what I thought I'd start doing is start a diary.
Okay, why?
Just 'cause I sort of had a bit of time on my hands and that. Just thought, write it down, write stuff down.
And do you hope that this one day will become one of the great literary documents like Samuel Pepys' diary?
I haven't heard of that. Is it any good?
You've never heard of Samuel Pepys' diary?
No,
the most famous diary other than probably Anne Frank's.
I've heard of Anne Frank's and that, and I thought if she's sat in a loft, knocking stuff up, not much going on in her life at that point, yet she was still writing it down.
Yeah, whereas
you've
been
on
to Gran
holiday.
Canaria, yeah.
I thought, so there is stuff going on that I can chat about. Start a diary.
Sure.
You started a diary?
Yeah.
And what are you going to do? Did you keep it up every day?
Yeah, just...
oh, can I read it, please?
Well, a diary's meant to be sort of...
Please, can I read some out on this podcast? Carl.
Some of it, though, is only relevant to me. It's sort of...
Oh, this is... Please, give me it. Oh, my God.
I mean, this isn't... I haven't just...
Look how big it is!
It's one of those desk diaries.
It's huge. It's about a foot long. And it's... oh, that is amazing. Imagine if Anne Frank had been like that. As she got out... right. Everyone would have heard it clank down on the desk.
Yeah, but my writing's quite big, isn't it?
Oh, look! Give us that.
Do you know about joined up writing? Have you heard about
There's
that?
no point.
Amazing.
Sometimes you can't read it, can you? So it's
Right,
best
okay.
to look at
look! Oh my God! It starts on the first day. This is wonderful. Going on holiday to Gran Canaria today. Woke up to the news that Tony Banks had died. There was a piece on the news about how everyone was shocked. Got me thinking about an invention that would be good. Right, a watch that counted down your life. If it says you've got 3 days left, go to the doctors. Told Suzanne about invention. She said she wouldn't buy one. But she said that about the iPod.
How would this device work, this watch? I mean, how would you know when you were about to die? Is that a concern? Again, not for you to worry about, presumably the boffins and the
No, all I was thinking is that Tony Banks fella, he died and everyone was shocked about it. But if you had like a little watch on...
But how did it work? You can't just say, wouldn't it be good? How would this work? Yeah, I imagine you're in the patent office going, got an idea. They go, oh, certainly, Mr. Pilkington, what's your idea? Watch that counting down your life. Oh, how does that work?
Just wear it, just pop it on your wrist.
No, what do you mean, just pop it on your wrist? How does it work? Just pop it on your wrist. Brilliant. You're an idiot.
Well, it's interesting that he goes on. The flight to Gran Canaria was a bit bumpy. I thought about the clock that counts down your life again, and I wondered if it would know if you were going to die in a disaster. No, he's querying his own design.
He's wondering if it would know. He's invented this.
And now he's not even sure. A fella on the plane was reading Koi Mag. It was a fishing magazine. I glanced over and noticed he was reading the Pond of the Month article. Don't think they could make it into a weekly magazine. Well, to be fair to you, because I remember seeing a guy on the train once reading Carp Monthly, a magazine dedicated entirely to carp, and it had Carp of the Month. And I just thought, once you're like 3 months in, the editor must be stressing, have we got any more carp? We got a carp that's actually done anything?
I reckon if they used the same one twice, there wouldn't be many complaints.
No one would be noticing.
No, that's the carp they used 2 years ago.
There was a really fat bloke on the plane. He was playing on his PSP. While I waited to go to the toilet, I looked at what game he was playing. It was darts. He's that fat and lazy, he can't even face playing a more active game on a games console. Me and Suzanne got off the coach along with a couple of old people. One of them was in a wheelchair. I don't think it was wise of them to come to a volcanic island with a wheelchair. Everywhere's pretty rough, paving and slopey. Guess I'll keep an eye on it as the weeks go on. Day 2 in Gran Canaria.
Brilliant, we're only at day 2.
The hotel's a bit odd. I've never seen as many cross-eyed people in one location.
That's enough, isn't it?
That's amazing!
Well, you may as well let me read on a bit more.
No, this is amazing.
Well, come back to
This
it
is a
later
brilliant diary. This might be the best diary ever written. Oh.
While sat listening to the Kinks on my iPod, I wondered if everybody thinks in their accent. I know I do. What's this? What are you talking about?
Just that, when I've been sat there lying on the lounger, right, and I was thinking about stuff.
How do you know you think in your accent? Tell me a typical thought.
Because what I mean is, say if I was like, if I saw something, right, do you know how I say, like, oh, that's a bit weird, isn't it?
No, but
that was
I don't
being
have
said.
to. But when you think, I don't think the sentence is like I'm saying it. It's just a thought. The thought appears. It's conceptual and it's already there. It's not like I go, Rick, what? Just looking at that fellow over there, were you? Yeah, I was, yeah. I was thinking it looks a bit weird. Oh, so was I. I don't think out whole sentences.
Whereas you have... Carl, stop listening to the Kinks for a minute. Look over there. More cross-eyed people.
No, well, that's
Is that how your mind works?
In a way, yeah. And
Brilliant.
that's when because I
That
thought
explains a lot.
It's great that you have to think of that whole sentences.
because I thought that's weird, isn't it? Like I didn't think that's weird, isn't it? And I thought I actually think in my accent. And then I thought, does Stephen Hawking, does he when he's doing his maths and that? Is he? I don't know where he's from, so I don't know what his accent would be like.
I think he's from Kent or Cambridge or Oxford. Or something like
Right.
that.
So
So you think he might think in his
voice, in that voice box
computerised
thing.
voice?
Just wondered.
Had lunch inside today due to shite weather. Sat next to an old fella. Old men's ears and noses carry on growing as they get older. Suzanne noticed his fingers were fat too. Maybe they continue to grow. Suzanne didn't laugh when I said her arse had the same problem. Day 3, cloudy start to the day. Had pie and chips in a cafe. Had a bit of an argument with Suzanne because I thought it was daft that we were paying for food when we were on an all-inclusive holiday. Changed my mind when I saw they sold pie though. The cafe was called Tattoos. The fellow who owned it didn't have any tattoos. But we never saw his wife.
Oh, brilliant.
Had a drink in a bar. Everyone sat and watched one of the local cats lick its bollocks.
It's the greatest holiday in the world. That's the entertainment in that town.
Went back to the hotel and had a sleep before tea. I love the fact you're moaning about old people, but you're just as bad.
You've done nothing so far.
He's done nothing, he's got me hip.
Oh, God.
Woke up to news about ducks being badly treated. There was a really ugly one with bent legs.
I'm gonna die. Why does he write this down? Oh, God. Oh.
There is a fat bloke from Bolton who was in the pool as I write this. He's got a big tattoo on his back, but I can't work out what it is. ... He just got out of the pool and burped. You just felt like you had to keep us abreast of that.
Everything's in the diary. I just seen it get to the point where you're going, breathed in,
Yeah.
breathed out again.
There was a big fat fella in the sea who kept his t-shirt on. If you're big and fat, is there more chance of you getting burnt because there's more of you on show? I asked Suzanne and she said she didn't know in that sort of not listening kind of way. I wanted to hang about to see if the fat bloke was going to get in the kayak, but Suzanne said we had to head back. Just let him waiting to see if he's going to capsize. We got home today, so we got up early to get the last bit of cloud.
No, it's just that it wasn't. It's not that sunny all the time. I mean, I was sat in weather that if it was like that here, there's no way I'd be sat in the garden. But because you're on holiday, it's like, well, we've got to sit in it. Put your coat on.
So are you going to continue to write this diary? Every single day?
It's amazing. Keep this diary up. It's amazing.
No, I will keep it up, because what I find as well is, I think earlier on, before I went away, I think I did learn something, and because I wrote it down, I remembered it a bit better. So...
What was that?
I just was thinking then, I forgot it now, but but I remembered looking back at it and not having to read it all, because I remembered the end of it before I read it, if you know what I mean.
I have no idea what you're...
It's a regular feature now when we read from Carl's diary. Carl decided to keep a diary. He's gone through with it. I could see it there. It's massive. It's a huge desk diary that he has to carry around with him, and the pages are getting full up. You're really keeping to this.
Yeah.
Right, this is extracts from Carl's diary.
Did podcast and went for an Italian with Ricky and Steve. Italian place is good. We've been there a few times. I always have the same thing, spaghetti. Can't remember what everyone else had. Last time we went there, Steve had little octopuses with pasta. You could see that they were octopuses. They hadn't been cut up or anything. My rule is that I only eat stuff that looks nice when it's alive. A cow, a chicken, some fish. An octopus is an odd-looking thing alive. Even worse when it's dead and limp. It looks like it just shouldn't have been sat in the spaghetti.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Ricky drew another picture of my head. We've given a few of them away as prizes, but he draws so many of them that they won't be worth as much anymore. Everyone will eventually have one. Like those pictures of a boy crying that caused houses to burn down in the 1980s.
What does that mean?
What are you talking about?
Don't you remember I mean, if you're listening in America, they might not have made it over there.
Is it the sort of like the sugary ones with kids? Like, is it Techikov or something?
It's just some kid. My auntie Nora had one, and it was just like a kid with like a blue jumper on, and it's like a painting, not a photo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And he's just crying.
Like a chocolate box. It's really awful, sort of sugary.
And what happened is they found out that a load of houses were being set on fire or burst into flames, whatever. And the weird thing was,
Oh, it's bollocks.
every house that burnt down had that photo.
Yeah, because every house had that picture in the fucking 70s and 80s. Idiot. It's like, we're linking it to sinks. Every house that's ever burned down had a sink. You're talking shit again. Carry on.
Wednesday. Saw a homeless bloke. I'm surprised that no companies have thought about sponsoring the homeless. Something like a clothing company. Give them some clothes that have an advert on the back. Everyone's a winner.
Good idea.
Not bad, is it?
Got on the tube to Camden. Read in a free newspaper that hedgehogs could be gone by 2025. I think I've seen more dead hedgehogs than alive ones anyway, so I don't think I'll miss them. Went round to Ricky's house and had a game of pool. It should have been nice and relaxing, but Jane gave me some cake, and Ricky said I can't play pool if my hands are all sticky from
No,
cake.
it was the sugar. And it wasn't that either. After he'd finished it, they weren't just sticky. He was licking his fingers, sucking his fingers off, and then was going to pick up pool cues and touch things. And I was thinking, go and wash your hands after licking your hands. You're not a cat.
This turned into an argument when I said I didn't want to wash my hands.
Why didn't he?
He goes for a piss all the time without washing his hands, and then squeezes my head. I know I prefer to have lemon cake crumbs on my head than knob juice. Was going to do a crossword, but I'm tired and have learnt enough today.
What have you learned?
Well, the stuff about hedgehogs and that.
Oh, God.
Was on my way to my mates, and I got on a train. Got close to a station, but realised I needed a wee. Was about to go in a cubicle when a blind man with a dog, who was bumbling his way through the walkway, came around. I said, "Are you after the toilet?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "It's on your right." I shouldn't have let him go first, as he took ages, and it would be my stop soon. The dog waited outside the cubicle. I was going to stroke it, but then I remembered someone telling me that you shouldn't. Don't know
Why
why that
not?
is.
Because something to do with the owner should be the only one who sort of deals with that dog, and you shouldn't.
Well, you shouldn't stroke it because you'll cover it in fucking lemon cake.
No, but just because, you know, if you stroke it and that, it might like me and want to go off with me, and he'll come out and be lost and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not totally sure, but I just thought.
Went and did the podcast. We had a meeting after. I don't like meetings, as I can't keep focused on what people are talking about. I think Ricky has the same problem as after 25 minutes he was trying to wrestle me. I tried to do what spiders do and stayed still as if I was dead. But Ricky just stayed on top of me, not moving. A bit like when you see one of them big snakes swallowing a sheep. Ricky got bored and released me. I went home thinking, why had I left my old job for this? A homeless man asked me for some money, but I didn't feel like I should treat him, as I felt that he'd probably had a better day than me.
Oh, God.
Suzanne called me to say she'd gone for a haircut, and that she'd meet me in the supermarket. I went to the supermarket, but she wasn't there. I called her and she said she was near the fruit aisle. I went to the fruit aisle and she wasn't there. Turns out she was in a different supermarket on the other side of town. And that if I'd listened to her properly, I'd have known that. I didn't want to say that
Well, you just went to the first supermarket you thought of, as opposed to listening to what supermarket. I'm in the supermarket. All right, bye.
I didn't want to say that I hadn't heard her properly, because my ears were ringing a bit from the wrestling from earlier. 25 minutes later, I met up with Suzanne. Her haircut wasn't that bad. Normally her haircuts are followed by an argument between us, as she pays over the odds for some daft haircut that's the latest style.
Brilliant.
I wish she'd take a picture out of a magazine or ask for a style rather than letting the hairdresser do what she wants. I said I only tell her to do this as she's got a square head, and a close-cut hairdo makes it look squarer. She said, "What do you think of this cut?" I said it looked alright, as I couldn't be bothered arguing about it. It's weird writing a diary. I don't know who thought of doing one of these first. The last time I did one was at school. They used to get you to do it so they could keep an eye on whatever you were up to. My diary used to say the same thing every night. Got home, went to the shop to get potatoes, bread, milk. Went home, watched telly, went to bed. I think I might have gone to Twiggy's Dance Club, just so I had something different to write. You've not told us about Twiggy's Dance Club.
It's just, you know, I sort of, when I was a kid, I sort of gave everything a bit of a go. I did boxing and that, didn't I? Gave that a go.
About 45 minutes.
And yeah, a mate sort of said, oh, you know, you're into your dancing, your robotics and that. You're doing your body popping, right? Body popping and that. He said, you ought to come to Twiggy's. And I went there, but I didn't go in. It was shut. They were just having like loads of toilet rolls delivered. I think like they were like using it as a storage place for toilet rolls and that. So I said, oh, I've come to have a dance. And like, oh, not tonight. Come back tomorrow. I never went back.
Brilliant. What a waste of an anecdote. Right. Brilliant.
Just to recap, you're convinced then that the teachers are asking you to keep diaries so they can keep tabs on you. And then to continue the diary, as there were more problems happening on the estate, they started to add Saturday and Sundays to the school diary to keep an eye on what we were doing at the weekend. I struggled to fill it on a Sunday, as the shop I got potatoes and bread from was shut on a Sunday. I had to go over to Shepherd's Bush to meet someone. I got the tube. There was a badly burnt man on the tube. It's amazing how the body can continue through quite a lot of bad stuff. It got me thinking about how much stuff you could remove in your body, one by one, without dying. If it was a competition, the cockroach would win, as it can live for a week without a head.
I just mean, like, say if, you know, they run out of ideas for TV programmes and that, right? They get someone who isn't well. They go, look, do you mind if we make a programme on you? And what they do, they sit them in the bed, and they go, right, what we're going to do now is take out the heart, but replace it with a pacemaker. Right,
No. Sorry. People with pacemakers don't have their heart taken out and a pacemaker popped in.
All right, then. Some sort of machine. What I'm getting to is...
Have you been playing Operation?
What I mean is the big finale would just be a head chatting with loads of wires going into it, and it's like, look what we can do with science.
That's what the programme's called. It's the same every week. The volunteer is just a head with loads of wires going out
Look
of it.
what we can do with science.
And he's going,
goodbye.
I feel ill.
Got some post delivered to me today. It was... Oh, this is great.
This makes it in the diary.
Got some post delivered to me today. It was addressed to Mr. Dilkington.
I don't know why that's so funny. Oh, God.
I got some post delivered to me today. It was addressed to Mr. Dilkington. I opened it, and the first sentence read, Dear Mr. K. Dilkington, you're one of our most valuable customers. I put it in the bin. Thought I would learn some new words, as Steve always says I don't use enough different words. I read in the Fortean Times that the word wew means an ugly female ghost with drooping breasts.
What do you mean?
Is that how am I pronouncing that right?
Who's using that word? Who is using that word?
It was just W-E-W-E.
Let's call it a woo. An ugly female ghost with drooping breasts. I think I'm right when I say there are too many words in the world. I don't think I will ever get round to using the word woo. Watched a health programme. Wasn't watching it properly, but heard some doctors say that we only get so many heartbeats in a lifetime, so don't do too much exercise. I told Suzanne, and she said I probably hadn't heard it right. We got talking about death. Suzanne said she didn't like thinking about it. I said she might end up being a woo. I was chuffed as I'd managed to use my new word. I went to the supermarket to get tonight's tea. On the way, I stopped and looked in the fishmongers at all the different fish they had in the window. It's like a child in one of those kids' TV shows.
I know.
Mr. Pilkington went to the fishmonger. He stopped and looked at all the fish in the window.
Hello, Mr. Dilkington, they said.
There was a newspaper clipping stuck on the glass about a two-headed fish that they've made in Taiwan. I don't see the point in doing this, as a fish having two heads ain't going to solve the world's hunger problems, as the head is the bit you throw away. Invent a fish with two bodies, and I'd say well done.
Good point, isn't it?
Suzanne watched one of her favourite TV programmes. I've told her the telly only goes on if there's something she wants to watch. If there's nothing on, she has to talk to me about stuff I've learnt. Like Descartes. Watched a programme on him the other day. He is the one who said something like, I know I'm about 'cause I dream. Doesn't work for everything 'cause ants don't sleep. I don't know if I'd like that or not. Sunday, got up, Sunny day, so I went for a walk in the park. There was a bloke walking down the street who was whistling some kind of annoying tune. He seemed quite happy with himself. Do people only whistle when they're happy? I don't whistle very much.
It's a good point. Whistling is so inane to me. But yeah, it's sort of like going, I'm content, it really is that thing that if they go, you go, well, Mr. Mellors, I'm afraid, we've got some bad news. Not only has your wife died, but you've lost a house. Thanks, Doctor.
Wouldn't happen, would it?
No, you don't whistle when
yeah.
you're sad. The other place you hear it, of course, is changing rooms. And that's men going, I'm whistling so I'm not looking at your cock. How could I be? I'm concentrating on whistling.
The lake was frozen over where I was walking. The ducks looked worried. They were sat on the edge of the lake waiting for it to melt. Were they, Carl?
Yeah, we just sat there looking, sort of going, oh, what's going on? I don't know, how long is a duck's memory? Because I wondered whether they're going, this doesn't seem right, but I don't know why.
I asked Suzanne why ducks don't use their wings much. They seem to walk and swim more and don't bother using their wings. Suzanne said she had to call her mum and dad, so I never got an answer.
The old excuse! Yeah. Suzanne, I can't talk now, Carl.
Gotta phone my mum. There was a marathon-type run going on in the park. It reminded me of the time when we were moving flat. It was the day of the London Marathon. Me and Suzanne were walking down the middle of the road, taking some stuff to our new flat. I was carrying a lamp and a kitchen bin. People were clapping me, thinking I was doing some kind of fun run.
Why were you walking on the same route?
Because it was when we lived on the Docklands.
Oh, brilliant.
There was no other route. The flat was just about 100 yards down the road.
They're going, look at the bloke with the bald wig. He's carrying a lamp and a bin.
Took a bag of old clothes to Oxfam. It was just old T-shirts and a couple of jumpers with holes in it. I don't think anyone will buy them. But the Oxfam is closer to the flat than the wheelie bin is. On the tube on the way back home, saw an advert for a book about a woman who works in a funeral home. She went into work one day, she goes to work on a body, she takes the sheet off of one of the bodies, and it looks exactly like her. This is called a doppelganger.
What's a doppelganger to you?
It's the thing I read about ages ago where someone was walking down the street.
Yeah, and he sees someone who looked a bit like him.
And no, this was weirder than that.
Go on.
He remembers, like, going down that street as a kid on his bike, whistling.
Yeah.
And then he's walking down the street, going to get some milk or whatever from the shop. Little bike comes whizzing past. He hears the whistling, he goes, that's weird. Looks at it, it was him when he was a kid. So it's like a time.
Shit. What do you mean it was him as a kid?
This is like a different form of doppelganger. It's just
Well, it's impossible, it's rubbish.
some sort of time thing, isn't it?
No, it's
time,
not, but that's impossible, so don't
It's
worry
just some
about
kind
it.
of time thing, Rick. No.
Yeah, it's
just
something
some
you
kind of time
read
thing.
again on the internet, or as a short story, or something someone told you.
On my walk back from the tube, I saw a jogger who was pushing a pram at the same time. The kid looked terrified. Got my science book out. It said that the static you get on the telly when a channel isn't tuned in properly is radiation that is still knocking about from when the Big Bang happened. I thought about the Big Bang and wondered if it was really a Big Bang, or did it just sound louder as there was no other noise to drown it out.
Good point, though, isn't it?
Carl's diary, Rick, never ceases to amaze. More from that next week.
I don't believe it, he's written it down!
Well, that's the jingle that signals it's time for more extracts from Carl's diary, and we'll lunge straight into it. Wandered down Carnaby Street. There was a happy homeless fella. I gave him £1.50. I thought of a tongue twister after giving him the money. It goes, if you can't treat a cheerful tramp, what sort of tramp can you treat?
It's good, that.
All
Say
right.
it fast.
If you can't treat a cheerful tramp, what sort of tramp can you treat?
Good, isn't it?
Good, that, yeah. You've got too much time on your hands, Carl.
Learned some famous quotes to see if they are as good as my sayings. Number 1, treat every day as if it's your last. Very famous saying. Now, is that something you do, Carl?
But you know, me problem with that one is that if it was your last, you wouldn't want to be doing much. That's the only problem I've got with that. I wouldn't want to, go to a fairground or whatever, because you're going, oh, it's my last day, what am I going to do? And I think you'd spend so much time worrying about what you're going to do that you'd end up staying in.
I think you're right, You've taken some of the poetry out of it. I think it means live life to the fullest, right?
I like the fact that you were musing on the idea that if it was your last day, you'd go to the fair. It's getting such a 19th century way of spending your final day.
I know, yeah. Well, the thing is, the other thing is that, the only thing that people get depressed about in terms of sort of like, life and death is, not the knowledge that they're gonna die, but more the knowledge that they know they're gonna die when they're dying. If someone told you, no one ever knows when they're gonna die, no one ever gets an illness, no one ever gets hit by a truck, everyone passes away peacefully in their sleep, dreaming they're riding a big marshmallow, right? Then you wouldn't care about anything. It wouldn't matter when, it wouldn't matter if you died tomorrow or in 30 years' time. You'd just live life to the full. You'd have it, every day would be great. You'd go out, you'd come back, you'd fall asleep. That would be amazing. There'd be no stress. There'd be no angsty, we're all gonna die stress, because it wouldn't matter. Because it would just be your life. Wouldn't it be amazing if someone guaranteed you, Carl, you're gonna die in your sleep? I'm not gonna tell you when.
Yeah, but some people do, don't they?
Well, exactly.
Yeah,
but we never know we're going to, because we stress. What if we get a dreadful illness? What if we,
But we're almost not letting people die naturally anymore, are we? Because we're always bodging stuff up.
What do you mean?
Well, someone who might naturally die in the sleep aren't allowed to naturally die in the sleep because they wake them up with those electric things and get them going again and pop in a new lung or whatever whilst they're at it. That's what I'm saying. They don't just... You never hear it anymore, do you? Frank peacefully died in his sleep. No, he died on the operating table whilst we were putting in a new lung. They don't die naturally anymore.
Frank died peacefully with 40,000 volts going through them and a couple of people going, clear! Clear!
Rushing about today. Got to get a lot done as I'm flying to Malaga tomorrow to see my mum and dad. Don't like flying. I'd be happy if they give you a parachute instead of a life jacket. They say Da Vinci invented the parachute as well as the helicopter. He never got round to making them though, because he only drew them on some paper. Got up at 5 AM as I had to get to Heathrow to get on the plane to see mum and dad in Malaga. Went out for a drink with a cousin who lives in Spain. Ain't seen her for 27 years. Oh, that must have been tricky, making conversation.
I didn't really bother. Because where do you start? I might as well go up to anyone in the street and start having a chat.
Yeah, you have to get further back than, did you want Chantal to win Big Brother?
Yeah. Me dad and me talked about history. I said we shouldn't go on about things that happened ages ago because I bet something similar has happened more recently.
Brilliant.
Read about an island in the Indian Ocean where there are tribesmen still living like they're cavemen. A helicopter tried to land and the tribesmen chucked spears at them. This is what I meant about not having to talk about things that happened ages ago. We have got new cavemen now, so why do we talk about the old ones? People could have lived before, but computers and all that blew up and books got burnt, so all they had left was what these tribesmen have got left.
Ramblings.
And that's the ramblings
man.
of a maniac. That's just a few hours before you go crazy with a gun in the...
No, but what I mean there is, right, say if all this has happened before, right, podcasting's been happening years ago, something happens.
Again, a lot of information from the Planet of the Apes.
Something happens, world ends, right, we come back again somehow.
Yeah. It's the detail you leave out that makes you intriguing. Just like the watch that you can wear that tells you when you're going to die. How does it work? Pop it on your wrist. That's all the detail you need. So the world happened.
No.
We came back.
Have you seen the pictures? Forget it then if you don't get it.
It's interesting that you had all those profound thoughts about this period in the past when they all lived, but you still found it appropriate to include at the end of that. It says the tribesmen wave their knobs about when they've had enough of having visitors.
That's what it said in the paper. That's what happens. They're quite happy.
What paper is this that you're reading?
It was in like a paper a couple of days ago. It said they don't mind having visitors if they're bringing them coconuts and stuff that they can eat. Once they've got everything they need, they start waving the tackle about, and that means like, right, leave now. Which you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah, at a dinner party.
My grandfather used to do that. Got a book sent to me called Freaks. It's a bit heavy, but it's got some interesting pictures in it. Read a bit about the two-headed nightingale. She/they was on tour in London years and years ago. It cost 2 shillings to have a front row seat. She/they had 2 heads/2 arms and 4 legs. They are called Siamese twins because the first twins that were born stuck together were Siamese. On one of the pictures, they are playing chess against a doctor. That hardly seems fair.
2 heads are better than 1.
So it's 2 heads, 2 arms, and 4 legs. That's just 2 women in one dress.
Yeah, that's 2 women with an arm missing.
Yeah.